Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This one was going to be a Ramadan recap, but it went in a good direction. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You are back again listening to The Helper's Gift. Alhamdulillah, today we got Maulana Nasir, we got Hafiz Ibn Yamin, and alhamdulillah, it's good to be back, man. What about you?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Always pleasure to be here.
Alhamdulillah, first one back after Ramadan. First one back after Ramadan.
Oh yeah, that's true, that's true. So obviously there's a few topics on the agenda. A lot of things have been going on. But I guess first and foremost, we say Eid Mubarak, right? Because we probably didn't put anything up for Eid.
Eid
تقبل الله
Mubarak.
منا ومنكم.
Ameen.
Should have posted the meme,
The meme?
the legendary
that
one.
one.
Eid
I
Mubarak.
We're gonna
Sure.
recreate that, yeah?
No, we can't do
Right
that.
here, right
Sorry
here, right
now,
now.
bro.
Right here, right now.
No,
Three of us.
no,
Come on.
We're gonna have to zoom on Bin Yamin's face, bro.
That's your one, bro. You send it every Eid without fail. It's not Eid and Eid's not complete till you send that one.
That's it, bro. Straight.
Now everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, which one is this?" If they're in my contacts, they know which one this is.
They know exactly what it is.
Nah,
Oh.
but like, how was Eid, man? Alhamdulillah, here it was a bit up and down because like a lot of people like your Hufaz read very quick, man. Other masjids got their like they're reading slower than your masjid, and why is your masjid reading so quick? Like we had some Hufaz from Dewsbury, and obviously they wanted to go home early, so they finished on the 25th.
Oh my
So
God.
they were
Wow.
reading quick, mashallah. But how about you, look?
Go on,
Eid
Benjamin.
can't complain. Eid can't complain. For
Eid in the
once,
park,
I
yeah?
actually. Oh well, no, it rained. It was a bit dry. Well, no, it wasn't dry. It was wet. Not a lot of people showed up. Not a lot of people showed up. If I'm being completely honest. But in terms of my own Eid, I realized we need to make Eid more fun. I have no idea if that's a topic for today, but maybe it could be a topic for today or for another day. But
Maybe.
Eid needs to be made more fun.
Mm.
So nobody came with flour on their face, yeah? Or
What? Flour on the face? Isn't that what Hindus do?
some people cover their hair and put flour on their face and that, and then turn up in it.
Oh my God.
Isn't that what they do in
He's
India?
so confused. He's so confused.
That's that
Powder,
festival,
bro. They
bro.
put powder for makeup, bro.
Come on, man.
Oh,
Get with it.
makeup. Oh. That's how you know. These eyes down there, bro. Don't pay no attention. Kulli halal, you know what I'm saying?
Mashallah,
MashaAllah, wallah.
Allahumma barik.
I mean.
Ameen.
Man.
Go on, Nisar.
Bro,
What
how
were
about
you
you,
saying?
Nasir?
How was your Eid? Eid Mubarak?
Eid, alhamdulillah. Just, I think sometimes, yeah, Eid does need to be more fun. I guess you could say that's for the youngsters and like the kids basically does need to be more fun. That I'll be honest, that's true. But I think
Nah,
for
adults
myself,
as well.
it's adults as
Adults
well,
as well, bro.
definitely to an extent. But I'm saying, for myself, I think part of since COVID and stuff, like I don't know if you guys have noticed it, but just seeing family that are even local as often is not really a thing now. It's more rare than it used to be, and especially just recently starting to work, and everyone like of my age group, everyone's just working, so you don't even see each other. So even on Eid day is an exception. You actually get to see family you haven't seen in a while, and I think as you get older, that's become something you appreciate more. So even though it was nothing crazy or nothing so extravagant, alhamdulillah, innit? Like just visit family, eat food, and yeah, man, just make sure praying our salah and that. And yeah, I think I couldn't complain really. I think my Eid was good.
You know, you mentioned
Alhamdulillah,
that.
for
Someone
me,
asked me.
like,
Wait,
yeah.
let me. I got a question. It's just fresh on my mind. I'm so sorry. This might be absolutely outrageous, but I want to know if you guys have ever heard this. I can't remember where or who. Someone asked me if Eid day is on Jummah day, do you still have to pray Jummah? Apparently you don't. I looked at that person and I was like, Eid Salah's not even fard. Have you guys ever heard that before?
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
As in, you've
Yeah.
heard that as a legit opinion, or you've heard that from some guy trying to be clever and be lazy? There's a big difference.
No, it's a legit opinion.
Yeah, it's a legit opinion. It's a legit opinion. But like you just said in it, like, and obviously our previous topic, because people are so out of touch with madhabs, this and that, and a full, way of like the way we're meant to be doing things. They just take this opinion, that opinion, and then it becomes from laziness. But there is a genuine opinion on that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
but then it's the thing of the masjid should still provide Jummah. They
yeah,
should
yeah,
still be doing Jummah. So if you're gonna get your namaz in the masjid, you're not gonna get Zohar. You're gonna get Jummah in the masjid if you go.
yeah.
So if I were to
So it
do
comes
that, would
down
you
to
guys
like,
tell me off
yeah.
or not? That's the question.
In our madhab, we have to pray Jumu'ah, so I'll tell you off.
Masas, masas. I respect it. I
Yeah.
respect the honesty. But I need to find out
Mm.
which madhab doesn't allow it, or which madhab gives you that freedom for research purposes.
Why is that, huh? Why is that, huh?
I want to know more about the madhahib. As you said, we're not in touch with it anymore. I need to enhance my
Okay,
knowledge.
okay, good,
You
good,
know
good.
your own one, though, innit?
That's what you guys are the
Okay,
ulama.
all right.
The topics I've been talking about on Ramadan actually have been muhasabah. Well, not Ramadan, I mean Jummah. The Jummah that we had obviously on Eid, and also the Jummah that just went because today is Monday. So the Jummah that just went last week obviously was about muhasabah, like how do you elevate that Ramadan? Because obviously all those reminders are going down, and how do you know your Ramadan's accepted in that? But I think, like you were saying about Eid also, like alhamdulillah, this Eid for me was probably one of the better ones in recent years for
Alhamdulillah,
some reason.
alhamdulillah.
Because usually when, like you said, when you were like before COVID and that,
Mm.
actually before that, like uh, when we used to go Luton, there's like 4 houses on one road. We'd
Yeah,
go to each house, have
yeah.
a 3-course meal, and like talk with everyone, and then go home like in the night. So obviously, I haven't done that in a long while. And then
Mm.
this Eid, alhamdulillah, did I think 2 houses, and then I had to go for namaz, obviously. But yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Free course
alhamdulillah,
meals
it's
as
good
well.
in that sense, like you were saying. Yeah, there was 2 3-course meals.
Come on.
You earn it.
Obviously, you have to eat at home first, innit? So 3 3-course meals.
Yeah. No,
Big
definitely. I
fan.
think. Yeah, yeah. No, literally. Yeah, I think because I felt that way, and it just felt like if you really think about it, that is really the case where you just don't see family as much. I don't know. Like that's been my personal experience, and whether it's the same for you guys, probably tell me otherwise. But
I think for me, is like while we were growing up, I thought it's just we're growing up. You just lose contact with kids. Like when you were kids, you all playing together. Now it's like everyone gets their own kind of life, kind of thing. That's what I
yeah,
thought it was. But
yeah,
I realize more now is like I don't know if I could say it's family beef. Like,
Yeah, I was gonna
there's
say
not.
that.
I'm not saying that we got family beef with these people, but I see like you might have family beef with one family, and because you know that family is going to be at that person's house, you're like,
yeah. Okay, okay.
oh, we'll probably call up and we'll probably go on the next day because they're going to go on the first day. So then all of that happens. So it
Yeah,
comes down to the parents forcing the kids. And I've been thinking about that recently. Like, it's like shaitan forcing, like, it's just similitude.
mm,
Because when a parent tells his kid, don't speak to that guy, his family, don't speak to his kids, don't speak
yeah,
to his kids' kids and his kids' kids, and make sure your kids and your kids' kids don't speak to his kids. And like, that just reminds me of shaitan kicked out of Jannah and he thinks it's Adam alayhi salam's fault. And then he's telling his kids to like go make sure that you mess up all of Adam alayhi salam's kids' lives.
yeah.
And it's just like you literally just exactly it's what shaitan was doing is exactly what these parents are doing.
And I think
But
that's
when he
probably why,
thinks,
isn't it? It's the reason why the silul arham is so important. Like
Mm.
and it was so emphasized by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and obviously
Sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
through whatever Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam would say, it was directly
Sallallahu
from
alaihi wasallam.
Allah subhanahu wa taala. So like it's crazy, isn't it? Like it's been so common that we forget that these are the certain scenarios and things that we do, yet it's so hated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, yet it's so normal. And yeah, it's definitely something to just look out for, really, within our own communities. And as much as we can, that the people that are more aware of it, we've got to try to do our bits. Because even like, for example, in my own family, like there's someone would say something and then they would tell another person, and that person has completely misunderstood what they're saying, and then
Yeah.
oh, that person looks bad, but then the one that's been said to, they didn't mean it to tell them that way that they're being toxic. Do you get it? It's so roundabout and so confusing. Whereas like the whole point of if someone has an issue with someone, just speaking to them about it and trying to resolve it, it's just non-existent. It's just he said that behind someone else's back, and yeah, I'm going to tell that person, and then that person also hates on him. So like, there's an example where Eid Day, right, a couple years ago, and my dad, like, he must have made a comment where one of my cousins, or like a distant sort of relative or something, he was showing my dad like a video of his grandfather, or sorry, his dad's in back home in Bangladesh. They built a masjid, right? And all my dad said was, when he was showing the video, all my dad said was, it'd be sad if someone was to help make a masjid and not be able to pray in it. Does that make sense? Like, he didn't mean it like, oh, your dad doesn't pray. Why is he building a masjid? He didn't say it like that. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And all he said was, it'd be sad if someone made a masjid
Oh,
and they can't even pray in it. Like, how misfortunate and how
how did
unfortunate.
man?
Yeah,
How
yeah,
did
yeah. And then the guy,
misinterpret that so much?
yeah, then he flips off. He's like, "What you say about my dad? What you say about that?" And it was so bad that we had to leave the house. We were like, "We can't stay here." The guy's fully lost his head, and he's trying to get at my dad. And we were just like, "What the heck's wrong with this guy?" And we get home, our Eid day was basically done. It was nighttime anyway, so we were just like, "Oh man, this guy ruined our Eid." And that. Then like 10 minutes later, my uncle comes, and because my mum's mum, so my nanny, she was staying with us, and then my uncle comes to collect my nanny to take him home, because like they used to take turns with looking after my nanny. So like she'd stay at our house for like a week, and then she'd go back to my mom's brother's house, so my mama's house. And then so my mom went upstairs and my sisters went upstairs to go and get my nanny, because she stays in my sister's room. Well, she used to stay in my sister's room. And then in that time, I'm still downstairs and my dad's at the door. And then my uncle starts, trying to antagonize my dad, saying, "Oh, yeah, I heard you said this to this guy, basically, the guy that kicked off." And then I'm just like, where's this going, right? And then he's like, "So you like causing problems and that, and trying to act like you know it all and this and that." And I'm just like, what the hell? And we were all kids then, and then all I'm seeing, yeah, it's just getting just escalating more and more and more. And I was like, what the hell, man? Like, where did this come from? You weren't even there to hear what my dad said, and you're trying to have a go at my dad, and it literally
Mm.
almost got physical. Like, my
Was that
dad
your dad's
wasn't taking
brother?
it as well. No, 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 my mom's brother. So,
Okay,
and
okay.
I'm just like, what the, like, from this guy just telling my uncle, so this cousin of mine, like, we call him Baya, and he told my uncle, like my actual uncle, my mom's brother, like that, my dad said this and this about him, about his dad. And it's like, it's so unnecessary, and that's just become so normal. And the way, obviously, it got dealt with after, it's just, we just didn't really communicate with them like that anymore. But it was never a thing where, oh, it was gonna go more than that. Do you get it? But
Mm.
stuff like that, we hear worse. Like, we hear actual fist fights and actual, sometimes it turns into crime, like with certain family members. It's mad. It's just unnecessary,
It's crazy, man.
literally.
All from a bit of
I think
gossip.
yesterday,
All from a bit of gossip.
I think we were talking about as well. Like, there was stabbings and that in East London, like outside the masjid and that. Apparently,
Yeah, man. Astaghfirullah.
like even in Ramadan, like, beef and stabbings and that. But yeah, it's enough's in it, right?
The funny
And it was
part
like
is,
from that day
when
on, it's like, yeah, man.
people pray
And
28 times, that doesn't insane.
and
My guy.
yeah. And the sad thing was, imagine, like, we were kids then, right? And that was the Eid day. So from then on, like, we'd always have a thing of like, oh, Eid day, something's gonna go wrong. Did you get it? Like, it shouldn't be
Trauma.
that way. Why? Yeah, it's like PTSD, bro. Like, why should it be that way? Where Eid day comes and we're like, me and my sister, we like to each other, listen, whatever happens, do not miss Fajr. Yeah, we have to pray Fajr, read Surah Yasin after, like Salat al-Duha, or Ishraq and that. Just make sure our Eid day goes well, like, we're not trying to have any issues. And then the day it go well, we're like, you know what, alhamdulillah, because one thing or another used to always happen with like Eid
Mm.
day, and it was just like not good. Not It wasn't good memories, man. But definitely with Binyamin's point, like, it needs to be more fun, 100%. And when we were children, then obviously that left an effect on us, because I still think about it. Like, whenever Eid day comes, I'm just like, oh, you know what, Eid day, man. I don't know, like, something bad always happens. But
You don't
alhamdulillah, I
feel any
think,
way about it.
yeah.
You
But
don't feel
I
any
alhamdulillah.
think
positive way about it.
there's a book. I
Mm.
forgot who wrote the book. Was a Mufti or Maulana. halal. The ways to have fun. The ways to have halal fun in Islam. So I forgot how many points he has in it, but I think I just want because there's one family that I know in Welling Garden City. They're like, yeah, we need to make sure Eid is really good for the kids,
Mm.
and you can send shots. Mine, I'll send shots. Like the parents or the fathers, they come to the masjid, mashallah. Their brothers, they come to the masjid, mashallah. One of them does azan. Like they're there. They're like the core of the community. Them two people are like core of the community, mashallah. But like kids wise, I've like I'm not sure if I've seen them even on Eid, on Jummah. Like Eid, you would see them probably, but like Jummahs and stuff like I don't think I see them. But now obviously I don't do Jummah there, so maybe they go, inshallah.
Inshallah.
But then they're like, we need to make Eid fun, so we're going to Thorpe Park, we're going to Alton Towers, we're going to a theme park.
Mm.
And you lot know, obviously, I made that custom. I'm not going to feed parks, fun fairs, and all that.
Yeah.
Is it?
But
I
Big
never
up
did.
Mullah Yusuf Koti.
yeah. So
What's that about though?
we'll touch on that.
Alright.
But I think it's like, okay, you should have halal fun in a way, but then also it's like, do you deserve the fun if you haven't really been like doing the things that you should have been doing for the whole month? That's what I think is the real thing. Like, yeah, Eid should be more fun. Yeah, people need to calm down a bit when it comes to like families, and like they need to make sure they're doing sila rahmi and stuff. Like even my own family, they like, oh, why are you going to that person's house? Like you shouldn't be going there. Mom and dad are alright with it, but like other people in the family sometimes they're like, yeah, you shouldn't go to that person's family. You shouldn't go to that person's house. Like I get it, but I think people need to calm down a bit. Forgive and
Think
forget.
integrity though. Integrity. If someone's wronged your parents and then you kind of go and hang around with those people, one thing is hanging around with them, another thing is going to make peace. It might come across as like a
Yes.
slap.
Yes.
It might come across as a slap in the face to your parents. So, for example, completely made up scenario. Let's say I have a cousin who decided.
Hypothetically speaking, yeah.
Oh, come on! I'm literally making something up. But let's say,
Alright.
let's take Nasir for example. Nasir's my cousin, and he goes and disrespects my mom, or his mom disrespects my mom. But then I go to Nasir's house and I'm all kushti with his mom, and she's feeding me tea and giving me some amazing treatment. Like that would be a slap in the face to my parents, wouldn't it? Because like disrespected my mom, but now you're sucking up to my son. So I can see why that whole sila rahmi happens, but
Do you know what's funny that you mentioned that?
yeah,
There has been scenarios where I've been in that situation. It's like,
yeah,
for example, like obviously this uncle of mine that I was thinking about, like my elder sister, like she does not care. If someone got rude or disrespected my mom and dad, she'd show it back. Like obviously not the best way to be, but she'd show direct like hostility in the sense that they know why they're getting it from her. Do you get it? Whereas myself is like I thought of it in the way that could I make them understand? Does that make sense? So that definitely the integrity part is like because what it is, I always felt that with family, I always get treated differently. It's like I don't get involved in, for example, whatever problem that this uncle or that uncle or auntie has a problem with my mom with or with like another family member of mine. I wouldn't keep that within me because of their thing with them. Do you get it? Instead, I'll
Because
try to find out
be-
why. Do you get it? Or
because you're Molvi or what?
I don't think it's
because he's a
because of
nice
that.
guy.
I don't know. You can't. I can't say that, but that's
Because you're young.
You're a
Is that
nice
what you?
guy.
Because you're a
This is what you
youngster.
are. You're a nice guy.
Because I felt like that as well. Like when there's beef, you kind of kept away from what is it. Like I was in madrasa obviously when it all happened, but still like you kept away from what happened. What is it? Who said what said what? And like now, obviously, it's like I don't know what's happened.
yeah,
So if I do go meet them and I do see them give salam and that, I try my best. Yeah, salam, how are you in that? But
yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
like you're not saying, don't chill. I try my best not to
Oh yeah,
chill,
yeah, yeah,
obviously.
yeah. Like, there's a difference, obviously, going there and just maintaining the peace, so it doesn't it
Yeah.
doesn't extend further. That makes sense. Like, but yeah,
Yeah.
now
What do
if
you
it's
like?
fully
Yeah,
being
go on.
bummy and chummy and that, like, nah, no, no, none of that. But yeah, I mean, I kept it civil. Did you get it? I think if that makes sense. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, man. So, sorry, I cut
So
you.
you
I
think
cut you up, Benny. What were you saying?
I'm
Oh
just
wait, was that your end of
deeping
your
it.
point?
I'm just deeping a little bit. You know that whole um thing that Ina mentioned earlier, that it's so normalized to not talk to people, isn't it?
Mm.
Don't you think? Don't you think it's a bit more deep rooted than that? Don't you think it's more a matter of people just can't behave? They don't have etiquettes in the first place. They don't behave according to the way of the Sunnah of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, which is why these beefs happen. Like the story that you gave, right? The story that you gave, like if your guy just listened to your dad and stayed calm, if he had patience, right?
Yeah.
A quality, a quality that we're told to have in the Quran. It was demonstrated not just in our prophet, in all the prophets, right? If my guy
Mm.
just had a bit of sabr there is no beef. There is
Yeah.
no not talking to each other. So, like, let's be real. Let's be real. The hardest thing, or one of the hardest things in life, is swallowing your ego and apologizing for something. Because it's just so awkward. And even when you do apologize to someone, it's still a bit like, oh, well, like, it's like that picture you see on social media. Everyone posts it. It's like once you break a glass, you put it back together. It's never gonna be the same. It's never gonna be the same. So
Mm.
I feel like asking for forgiveness is something difficult between people. So if it's something that's so difficult, it's probably easier for you just to behave in the first place and not create a ridiculous situation like that, isn't it? But then obviously, on the other hand, is it a hadith? If you don't talk for 3 days because of a dispute, it's like you're sinful. Is that the one?
Yep,
So how do
something
you
like that.
address that? Like, there has to be a way to address it because let's be real. There's a lot of issues like that, not just in our families, in our circles, like everywhere. Like, how many people do you know that you've got one contact of a friend and then you've got another contact and those two guys
Mm.
got beef with each other and they haven't been talking for over like 3 4 years? How do you address that? Where do you address that? Do we need to address that? Do we leave that to the people themselves? Because like you
Yeah.
said, it's a
100%.
major issue. It's a major
Yeah.
issue, but it's one of those ones that's become so normalized. There's a lot of things that are major concerns that are so normalized. So if we're gonna sit here and discuss the problems, why don't we discuss the solutions as well?
Yeah. No. Definitely. Definitely. I mean, it's like with that one as well, right? I think with the hadith, where people sort of not misunderstand, but I think a part that's overlooked is, of course, when there's distance and you don't speak, that's a majburi, innit? That's a helplessness. You can't help that because people are genuinely busy, right? But if you're sitting with that dirt in your heart, that hard feeling against a fellow brother, then it's obviously when the hadith sort of takes what do you call it into effect, the 3 days basically. So it's like if it's 3 days you're sitting with that dirt in your heart against somebody after a certain situation scenario, then like only Allah knows like how many of us are what do you call it are gonna be culpable for that, because so many people, the grudges that they hold is like it's disgusting. Because what it is like some people, they have that saying in it, oh, forgive and but I won't forget. Like if you really forgave someone, why would you still try to remember the bad that someone did to you? Do you get it? Because that's still a
But
that's
could
still a
you
burden.
forget? Could you
No,
forget?
but in a sense that but in a sense that that burden of that bad being done to you, why you gotta let it sit with you?
I get what you're saying, and I get what Benny's saying as well.
Vinny's
Wouldn't
saying
like
in a
Like,
in a in a in a literal sense. Does that make sense? But
yeah,
the
yeah,
thing is, like, let me tell you what I'm trying to say is like, say for example, like in Mola, he knocked the crap out of you, and you're just, you
and
forgave
I
him. You
probably
tell
did.
him, oh, I forgive you, but I'm not
Oh,
gonna
believe
forget
me,
it.
I haven't.
Okay, but listen. But then every time
Well,
someone
now
brings
you
it
know.
up, every time someone brings it up, that dirt in your feet, that in your heart, that comes back. That makes sense. That's what I mean. Like, to remember what someone did to you, and then straight away that dirty feeling comes back. Then have you truly forgiven them? Does that make sense? Like, yeah,
Mm.
obviously, some scars in life and that you don't ever forget them. I mean, they leave a mark for a reason. Do you get it? But
I think
J-
there's like one solution of making sure you're not in that hadith. The 3 days one is if you see the person, give them salam, right?
mm,
That's you're following the sunnah by starting with salam, and then eventually, al badi with salam bari'u min al kibr, the one that begins with Islam is going to be free from
yes,
pride. So eventually, you giving salam so many times, you will see yourself relieve that pride from you. Where, like you were speaking before, Benjamin, the whole sabr thing, humble yourself, come down a bit. Like, you're made from mud. You ain't made from like no good quality mud. Mud is mud. Like, you humble yourself to that regard eventually, then yeah, you do forgive the person, you forget about it in a way, like you were saying, you forget, you don't hold that harshness. But then also, since we just came from the month of Ramadan,
I
sabr.
got two
Sabr is
questions
something that,
before I'm gonna forget. Can I ask
go
them
on.
before you hit that
Yeah,
point?
go on.
Yeah. I got two questions. Okay. The first one, oh, I forgot the second one. The first one is, I
Hafiz, huh?
understand my Quran's good, nothing else. My first question is, if you truly
Alhamdulillah.
forgive someone, it's like that those scars don't always go away. And didn't the
No, no.
Prophet ﷺ, like, didn't he also feel kind of hurt
I was just
by
gonna
some
say
of the
that.
reasons? That's
I
what
was
I was
gonna say
thinking. Like
that.
there was
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
I don't know the names of the
A big one.
Sahabi, but
Go on. Let me say it then. So
yeah,
the two people that were responsible for the murder of Hamza radiallahu anhu,
Radiallahu ta'ala anhu.
radiallahu anh.
Wahshi and
That was it.
Hind.
Wahshi.
So Hind was obviously the female sister. Well, she became a Sahabiya, so we can't talk bad.
Radiallahu
Yeah,
ta'ala anha,
yeah, we
yeah.
can't talk bad about radiallahu ta'ala anha. But you know,
Was it Hind binti Utbah?
if I'm
Is
not
that
mistaken, yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
hmm,
But if not, then we
may Allah
can
forgive all.
forgive the mistake, and we can obviously, but it's not to finger them, downplay them, stuff like that, because they're Sahabi and Sahabis now. But it was so painful for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to face them that he accepted. Obviously, obviously he couldn't deny anyone's shahada, but of course not. But it was when they became a Muslim and they tried to ask them for forgiveness. He said, "I've forgiven you," but he didn't. He couldn't bear looking at their faces because he'd remember the hurt and the grief and the pain from Hamza radiallahu anh. And the fact that Hind, radiallahu anha, she bit the liver of Hamza radiallahu anh.
Mm.
And Wahshi was the one that
Mm.
spared him, like not the WWE split, but the actual like astaghfirullah, I shouldn't even make a joke there.
Roman Reigns.
Hey, be quiet, man. This guy.
Sorry, you made
My
a joke.
bad.
I had to follow up, man. I had to follow up.
Oh
Go
yeah,
ahead.
nah. So it's astaghfirullah, but yeah, nah. I didn't mean to make a joke of that, but yeah. But you know what I'm trying to say, innit? Like, so in that sense, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, as he said, he he didn't say that they're not Muslims, or he didn't shun them in that way, but he just said that, listen, I can't bear to look at you because of the pain that I feel. Then you get it, as like Maulana Imam said, we just say salam to the people, forgive them in our hearts, but we don't have to talk to them. Does that make sense? But the the part of where the Sila Rahmi comes in is, of course, not everyone's going to get along with everyone. Do you get it? It doesn't work that way.
Mm.
The human nature is different. Like some characteristics of certain people who just never align with us, and we're not forced to keep contact and relationship with them on that level. But just the salam
Mm.
kalam, and I'm gonna go about my way. That's about it. Do you get it? And I think that because we forget that, like, we don't have to speak to everyone, but at the same time we can't hold that against us with everyone, because we heard the story of the Sahabi where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the next man that walks in, they were in a majlis, and the next man that walks in, he is a person of Jannah. And it was an ordinary Sahabi. I forgot the name. Maybe Mulay Nam knows, but or yeah, but the name. I think the name wasn't mentioned. Was the name mentioned?
I think
It must be. It must be. It must be
because I think it was Anas ibn Malik radiallahu ta'ala anhu that went
to
and
stay with
followed
him.
him,
Yeah,
right?
and
Yeah.
so then Sahabi, he became curious. Like, why has Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned and described him as a man of Jannah?
Yeah.
So he went and stayed with him 3 nights. He asked him, "Can I be a guest? I just want to stay with you." So then obviously the Sahaba Kiram at that time, they were very hospitable. Whenever anyone asked for anything, they were like, "No problem," like without hesitation. So he stayed with him, you know, saw what he used to do throughout the day, and it was all very general things. Like everyone, all of the Sahaba, they had certain qualities, and he was like, I didn't see anything extraordinary. After the 3 days, I was like, I didn't see anything extraordinary. Why did Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam describe you as a man of Jannah? And the Sahabi, he replied back saying that before I go sleep at night, I forgive everyone. That clean slate I keep. At night, I clean my heart from any angst or any, hurt or any
Ill feeling.
ill feelings that I've had for any of my brothers or family or whoever that he's come into contact with. So because majority of the problems in the world and with Muslims and even with non-Muslims is the lack of knowledge, lack of deen, lack of knowledge. Where I think it's more of a Muslim problem because obviously for the non-Muslims, it's until they become Muslim and until they get deen, they'll never fully understand from our view what we're trying to talk about. But yeah, that's really and truly it. Really, to be honest, when there's a lack of deen and understanding of how we are meant to be, these things happen.
Because that was such a good answer, I had to write down my questions and the points I wanted to add because that was a very good answer. So one of them is a bit irrelevant, but I'm still going to ask because I'm curious. And I just wanted to touch up on that point that you made. You explained it so well, and it actually made sense to me as well because I was sitting here thinking, how could you, how could you forgive someone but then like not show any animosity
Mm,
because you can never actually forget if someone does anything major. But then I realized by you just giving salam kalam, you're swallowing your ego, you're swallowing your hurt, you're swallowing your emotions in the name of doing what's right. And just because you feel hurt, which you're entitled to as a human, that doesn't necessarily mean you feel dirt. Feeling
mm,
hurt and feeling that is very different. And
mm.
that's the distinction. That is the distinction that the Prophet ﷺ had in that situation, and
Sallallahu
we
Alaihi
in
Wasallam.
our families don't have. The Prophet, he felt hurt, which is why he just said, I can't face you. I can't face these other Sahaba and Sahabiya. But us, in our families and circles, it's more hate. It's not.
Mm,
It's not that we're hurt. It's hate. Where
yeah,
like, oh, I hate you. I despise you. I'm disgusted by you. So I think that's what you really explained well there. So
yeah.
Sas, thank you. I learned something new from you today as well. We'll start. The relevant question. The relevant question. You know how those two? I forgot the names. Those two in the story that we mentioned, right?
Hind and
Because they
Wahshi.
became
Hind, radiallahu ta'ala.
Mm.
random question. Random question. Are we allowed to name our children after them? Or would it make sense
Yeah,
to? Because it's like,
I think Wahshi was a nickname,
yeah,
I
yeah.
believe. So I don't think you should name your children after that one because I think Wahshi means, I'm not
Well, I
sure.
don't know. Wahsh does that mean animal?
Wild.
Wild, yeah.
I think it means
Like a
wild, yeah.
wild,
So
yeah.
complete
I don't
random
think,
question. Yeah, like,
Mm.
I just put it
yeah,
out
but then
there
obviously
because,
the Prophet ﷺ told us to say, name your kids after good things. So,
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
I
more
think
because
Ali
it's like,
radiallahu ta'ala anhu wanted to name one of his kids Harb, fight,
Mm.
fighting.
it's not
And the
what?
Prophet ﷺ said no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's war, but he had an uncle named Harb as well. So he's like, yeah, I like fighting and I like war. So I'm going to name my kid war. And the Prophet ﷺ said no. I think that was Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu.
Mm.
Fair enough. That was just completely irrelevant one. I was just curiosity. And then the other one, which I had to write down, you know, the right thing to do when you have been in a situation or you got a grievance against someone, like we said, is forgive and try to rid those ill feelings when you forgive. So it's genuine forgiveness, right? If you can't forget, then you can't forget. As a human, you're entitled to feel hurt. Now, the question I wanted to ask, how do you react if the person doesn't actually ask for forgiveness? If the person isn't actually serious, if they're not sincere,
Mm.
like someone does something, a major, major grievance against you, how can you? Look, I get that you should forgive, right? I get that you should forgive because you want Allah to forgive you. But if someone's done something major, right, and they haven't actually asked for forgiveness, as a person who has emotions, who feels hurt, how would you advise them to first and foremost forgive, most importantly, and then go on further to actually have it in them to be okay with them? Okay, in the sense of not airing them and fulfilling the hadith of having the basic salam kalam and not having that dirt. You see, do you understand the question?
Mm-hmm.
To an extent, yeah, I get what you're saying.
I was
Go
going to
on.
say, before you answer,
Mm.
Nasir, be careful. So it's a very, I don't know, because it's a hard one to answer, to be honest.
I have an
Because
answer, but it's like, as you did say, you made a point, right? Where, of course,
it won't be generic.
yeah,
That's the
yeah,
thing.
yeah. I think the way you said how obviously we should have it in our hearts that we want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us. And really and truly, if we look at our own lives, is that not what we want? Because we know the bad we do, man. Like we know the bad we've done. We know the bad that we, may be culpable of doing in future. And really and truly, if we had such a deep rooted faith in the sense that there's so much wrong with us that okay, the forgiveness part of side of things, I think we should, we must do it. We must do it for our own selves, because the more you keep that within yourself, it burdens yourself, because now you're having to carry a thought where the other guy does not give a crap. Like they couldn't care less how you feel. Do you get it? That's how bad it is with them, in the sense that they've hurt you so badly. It's either they're unaware, or two, they're so hard hearted that they don't even care, or they don't even remember that they hurt you. Does that make sense? And it's not to say that that's fine for them to do that, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if he can grab he will grab them if they don't ask the person that they've hurt for forgiveness. But whereas the one being hurt, it's a burden on ourselves to remember the hurt that someone's caused us. Does that make sense? So
Mm.
in that sense, I'm saying as much as we can, we have to just remember our own faults and just say, you know what, Allah, like, we need your forgiveness. I'll forgive you, this person, for your sake. You don't, and that's what I'm trying to say. You don't need to talk to them again in that sense, because the forgiveness is there, and whether they come up to you after and ask for forgiveness, Allah knows best. Because it was the same thing, like, how I was talking about my father and the uncle. After that incident, right, my dad just was nothing. He told us, and it's not even out of breaking ties. It was just because of how un-Islamic certain things were with certain people. It was like, for your own safety, you can't go to these places. Like, you can say salam kalam and that when you see them, but there can't be an active, go and chill with them, go to their house, and you know get basically any opportunity to get influenced by them. Does that make sense? So it was in that thing. And then I remember when the time he had passed came, it was like they come into our house crying their eyes out. Like, me, my mom, and my sisters, we weren't even crying that much. So you can imagine their regret, like, because they knew they were wrong. So why are you
And
coming
they never
crying like
asked for
that? Do you get it?
forgiveness.
You're crying more than us. But then, Alhamdulillah, we knew the kind of person our dad was. So it's like the crying was grief, whereas the crying that they did, Allah knows best. But it seemed like regret to me. Do you get it? Like, in that sense, it's like,
Mm.
it's not worth it. It's really not worth it. Just holding it and holding that grudge. Of course, you're entitled to, because
I'll-
if someone breaks your right, and it's part of the Toba, the condition of Toba. If you hurt someone directly, then part of the Toba, for your Toba to even be forgiven, but from Allah, you have to ask that person for forgiveness that you've hurt.
That's what I was gonna
Yeah,
touch
yeah.
on.
But
That
carry on,
yeah,
Molana.
the person may forgive you, but then if you haven't asked for forgiveness on the day of Qiyamah, you'll be asked for that. That yeah, you were forgiven for the action, but you never did your tawbah properly by going asking for forgiveness. The ulama say that yeah, you need to go ask the person if you take their haqq, but then it's like, if you don't go ask, yes, you may be forgiven by the person because you be a good person, but that doesn't necessarily mean you won't be asked about why didn't you go ask that person for forgiveness on the day of Qiyamah.
Exactly.
And I think the other thing that you were just about to touch up on, I think, like, everybody's hurt is going to be a bit different. Like, when we talk about somebody's haq being taken, like, it could be one thing like backbiting, one thing like stealing someone's money, one thing like frauding somebody out of, like, thousands and thousands of pounds. Like, everybody's hurt would be different. So I think there's two, like, you could look at both sides. Like, one side you could say, okay, the person that's been hurt, like, it's a test for them in a way. That obviously, la yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah
100%.
subhanahu wa ta'ala won't burden a person for more than they
Mm.
can bear. So yeah, like, if you're going through that kind of test, whatever kind of haqq has been taken, like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows that you're capable to go through
Mm.
that. So, and you're capable to forgive the person. So yeah, it's like, if you keep that in mind, then it'll be easier for you to, forgive a person. But also on the other side, like we said, yeah, if you don't ask for that forgiveness, you're going to be asked on the day of Qiyamah that even if the person did forgive you,
Yeah.
you're still going to be asked, why didn't you go ask for
Definitely,
forgiveness?
definitely, because that condition of Tawbah hasn't been met, because you've clearly
Mm.
broken their haqq, and part of the condition for Allah to forgive you is that you need to ask them for forgiveness. But like Molana just said, like, whether they forgive you or not, that will be, there's a balance, because they may not forgive you. So it's
I think my azan's going to go off in like 2 minutes.
sure.
So, is there anything else, Benjamin?
No, that were my questions. Any more, I'll write them down.
Khair.
I feel
No,
like
bad
I'm.
shout.
I feel like
The
I'm the
student.
presenter today. I feel like I'm Talib.
Right, because that is true, like usually the presenter doesn't talk much.
Yeah, this is not.
You're
We
not.
don't have a presenter here, man.
Yeah, I know. It's usually
This
just
is a
convo.
coffee
We
break.
try and make the convo flow.
you're on a good topic. That's why I'm actually asking genuine questions.
Mm.
You know, with Nasir,
God, it's.
Nah,
I
this is
I
think
want
most
to ask
because it's
people.
genuine.
relevant. It's relevant to us all, isn't it?
Yeah, most people will have these
Yeah,
questions.
this
Though,
is
and it's
very.
good. I
It's a
think.
very common topic. Like whether we have it directly within our own families. I mean, clearly, me and you, Binny, we have these problems in our families. But
Me could never be
I
me.
believe it's more
I'm.
common,
Oh, okay,
amongst
okay.
Bengalis.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. I mean, for anyone
Wait,
listening,
no. Don't make me dig deep in the closet. Don't make me dig deep in the closet. We have a lot of discussions in our kebab shop that we used to go to, and I know a lot of things in your side as well, all right? So don't come for my Bengali
Yeah.
people.
nah, but it's true though. It's true though.
Sorry,
I mean, yeah, you guys have, a lot that we've
a
talked about,
lot.
but yeah.
So alhamdulillah, based on the discussions today, I think we can conclude that Ramadan, month of forgiveness, raise your hands up, pray to Allah for forgiveness. But even more so, one of the conditions of tawbah for a particular sin when it comes to people is to ask the person that you've wronged for the sin before you turn to Allah. So, going back to the importance of family, I think personally that that whole issue, it becomes something that we address, is something that's rectified, because more often than not we don't spend a lot of time with our families because we haven't forgiven them for something in the past. We've got some kind of ill feelings or animosity towards them. So for us to make our Eids more fun, more enjoyable, to make it such that you don't have to pray the extra salah to say, I hope nothing goes wrong, forgive your family. Go with every Eid with a fresh heart, a clean slate, looking to have a positive Eid. Approach it with a positive mindset, having forgiven everyone for what happened at the previous Eid or throughout the year. And the gift that we want to leave with everyone today is, if anyone has wronged us, be it on the podcast, be it in any aspect of our lives, and you're listening, all three of us, I'm sure I speak for everyone here, we would like
Yeah.
to sincerely forgive you for anything you've done wrong. And if we've done anything wrong to upset anyone and we're not aware, if we are aware, then we'll inshallah make an effort to reach out. And if there is anything that we're not aware of, we sincerely ask for your forgiveness, and we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also forgives us for the things that we do wrong to each other. So the gift for today
Ameen.
is
Ameen, ya Rabbil Alameen.
forgiveness from us, and us asking for forgiveness for anything that we might have done. So I pray Allah, or we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgives us and gives us the ability to live in a way where we don't have to ask for forgiveness from each other. And come next Eid, which is around the corner, we'll actually spend a lot more time together with our families, and there won't be no
Inshallah.
beef. Ameen
Inshallah.
ya Rabbal Alameen.
Ameen, ameen, ya Rabbil Alameen. Jazakallah khair.
And on that, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.